in the Middle East region, we are setting a new type of political coalitions. Political coalitions, we can see Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain in one side, and we can see Qatar in another side.
On its own.
On its own. But in front, not by its own, actually, frankly speaking. Qatar is trying to take more dominating role in the region, which is interfering with the internal affair with these countries, which is including to have more internal interference in the political affairs of this country. What I see is some kind of coordination between Egypt and the GCC country to make this ally, strong ally. You can see another message that there is a discussion between Egypt and UAE to have an Egyptian troops on UAE base. Because strategically point of view, we have threat from Iran on the GCC country, which considered to be a threat on Egypt. The interference of Qatar of these countries is considered a strategic threat for us. So stability of UAE and stability of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, it is also a reflection for our stability and security. So there is strategic alliance between us. So if Qatar will revise their policy in the region, I think there will be a good step to calm down the situation in the Middle East, because it is hot more than it is supposed to be. We already have a catastrophe in Syria, we have a catastrophe in Libya, so we need to calm down.
Don't you think that Qatar now, maybe the other countries have discovered lately, or it's been very obvious that Qatar is playing on its own agenda now, nothing related to Arab nationalism in any sense, having its own separate agenda?
What is apparent that they are funding who are not supposed to be funded. Okay? What they claim is that they are supporting human causes. This will need some kind of a confrontation between the country, the Qatar governments and Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and UAE. What you are doing is harming us. So either you give a proper justification, or either you stop. Okay? And this will not be like a public discussion. This will be like under table discussion. Okay? But Qatar have to revise their strategy in the region.
And their policy.
So you spoke about an ally, you spoke about movements by Egypt and the GCC countries. What do you think of what's happening today? What do you think of the type of alliance between those countries and the type of stance that's supposed to be escalating in the upcoming period, if it's going to?
You are speaking on the Middle East or
yes,
regional?
The Middle East.
Middle East. Egypt have to strengthen their allies with Saudi Arabia and UAE and Bahrain. This is no discussion. Okay, we are in the same boat. And this can translate why they supported us in different periods and why they were not happy with us during Morsi government. We have different types of stress, either internally in the region or surrounding us, because the expansion of Iran in the Gulf region, like Shia and Sunni, is creating a lot of turbulence now. So Saudi Arabia is trying to have their own strategy separated from the U.S. because they cannot see that the U.S. is preparing the proper strategy which is in the benefit for Saudi Arabia and UAE. So now they are having cooperation with Pakistan to have their own development for nuclear stations. They are trying to make open channels with Russia. So I see like diversification of the strategy and alliance, either standing depending on the US or the West. No, we have the other side like Russia and China and so on. So I think there will be a lot of cooperation in this side. If you're speaking about the crisis in Syria, what happened in Ukraine can impact the crisis of Syria, believe it or not. This is my opinion, of course, because Russia now is in a position that they have to stand for any expansion against their borders. So they are looking to the national security. We have to protect our borders and so on. So I see this is the startup of new Cold War, and it will be warmer than the before. Of course, no direct confrontation will happen, no direct invasion, but You will find like a give and take between Russia and the U.S. It can happen in Ukraine. And
Do you
it will
think
happen in Syria.
Putin's move is the right one?
Right one or not the right one, but imagine if Mexico have decided to change their regime and be a communist, what will U.S. will do? And if you want to confirm this story, look to Cuba when they tried to have an ally with Russia in the 1960s and 1970s. The U.S. have sent their troops to surround Cuba, either to stop the ally or attack.
According to Putin, he says he is protecting his country, his people, and this is just what he has to do.
And he will stand for this. What will happen, or what I'm estimating to happen, that he will support his ally in Ukraine. He will not give a direct army interaction or direct military interaction in Ukraine, but he will support the supporter of the Russian community in Ukraine, like Crimea and so on. So I think if it went peacefully, Crimea can be considered as a separate country or separate state, and maybe other part of Ukraine will divide from Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. So the final question is around the report about the human rights for the dispersal of protesters during the renowned Rabaa sit-in. So if you can give us a brief about what happened and your opinion about it.
In summary, the report said there was a mistake from both sides, and the Rabaa protester, there was parties or stakeholders inside who started the attack on the police, and there was a mistake from the police in handling some situation, and sometimes he used unnecessary force. From my point of view, I'm looking for the other recommendation, which is recommending the police to have more advanced tools and techniques and preparation in handling such situation, protests and campaigns. There is a lot of advanced tools that we don't have now. Investing in the police is very, very, very important for us. Investing in our internal security is very, very important. Using technology, using advanced tools, using training, using professional officers. We are depending on soldiers who are not well qualified. We have minimum number of officers and a lot of soldiers. The soldiers have limitations. We need bigger amount of officer, qualified officer, trained officer with the proper equipment and the proper tools. Using the technology now, it is not a luxury, it is an asset.
Necessary.
It's a must.
It is necessary.
Definitely. So you also spoke about an important part, which is the development of the police force and the security apparatus in Egypt for whatever is going to be coming, because we cannot expect the protests to be stopped throughout the upcoming period. We're heading towards presidential elections, we're heading to parliamentary elections, and things are not that smooth usually in such cases.
Yes.
So what is your recommendation in terms of development for the security system in Egypt?
First, social unrest, it is a trend all over the globe. It is not in Egypt only. And as you said, it will not end by the presidential election. And usually we'll have a lot of protests. This is expected. You have to take a proactive approach, which is policy analysis. You have to analyze your stakeholders when you are taking decision. You have to make SNA, social network analysis. You have to follow up on social media.
Sorry, Dr. Karim Hamza, we're going to have to wrap up just for the reason we're starting now top stories. So do stay with us and join us back. And we were joined with Dr. Karim Hamza. Thank you so much for joining us, a political analyst and the senior associate researcher at the Institute for European Studies, Vrije University in Brussels. We're coming right back. Stay with us.